Welcome to Famous People, English Stories. Ready to level up your English? Here we learn through stories slow, clear, and fun. Listen, relax, and enjoy the journey.
Introduction. Love is a mystery. It can heal. It can destroy. But what happens when someone you love is hiding a truth so deep, it could change everything? This is the story of Ava and Daniel. Two souls connected by fate and divided by secrets. A romantic thriller that will take you through passion, fear, and revelation. Chapter 1. The Stranger at the Cafe. Ava sat at her usual table by the window. She loved that spot. Every morning before work, she came to this quiet little cafe on Oak Street. The barista, Lena, already knew her order: one cappuccino with oat milk, one blueberry muffin. The world outside was moving fast, cars rushing, people talking on phones, the sounds of a city in motion. But inside the cafe, time moved slowly. Calm. Safe. Ava liked that. She opened her laptop and started typing. She worked as a graphic designer, creating logos and posters for companies she didn't care about. But in this cafe, for an hour each morning, she dreamed of something more. A better job. A better story. A better love. Then he walked in. A tall man in a dark coat. His hair was dark and slightly messy, like he had run his hands through it too many times. He didn't look around. He knew where he was going. Straight to the seat across from her. "Is this seat taken?" he asked, his voice calm but confident. Ava blinked. No one had ever asked to sit with her before. She looked around. There were empty tables. Many of them. She hesitated. Then she said, "No, it's not." He sat down, placed a small black notebook on the table, and looked at her. "I'm Daniel," he said. "You come here every day." "You've been watching me?" she asked, half joking, half worried. "Not like that," he replied quickly. "I just notice things. I notice people. You always sit here. You always order the same thing. And you always look a little sad." That last part surprised her. She wasn't used to being seen. "Not really. Maybe I just think a lot," she said. "Maybe," he said with a small smile. "Or maybe you're waiting for something." She didn't answer. What could she say? He was right. She was waiting for something. Or someone. She just didn't know what. That was the start. Each morning after that, Daniel appeared. He sat at her table, said little, and sometimes just read from his notebook. He never talked about himself. He asked questions. About her. About what she liked. About what she believed. It was strange, but Ava started looking forward to those moments. A stranger, yet familiar. Mysterious, but kind. There was something about him that made her feel awake. And then, one rainy morning, she asked him, "What's in the notebook?" He looked at her for a long time. The cafe was quiet. Even Lena, the barista, was pretending not to listen. Daniel slowly opened the notebook and slid it across the table. Ava looked down. Pages filled with sketches, notes, maps, dates, and in the middle, a photo of her. She froze. "What is this?" she whispered. Daniel didn't move. "I didn't mean to scare you," he said. "But I need you to know. I didn't just meet you by accident. There's a reason I'm here. A reason I found you." Ava's heart pounded. She stared at the photo. It was taken months ago. She was standing outside her apartment, smiling, carefree. She had no idea anyone was watching. "Why?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Why me?" Daniel closed the notebook. His eyes were serious now. Dark. "Because someone is looking for you, Ava," he said. "And I'm the only one who can stop them." The cafe was suddenly too quiet. Too cold. Ava didn't know whether to run or scream. But something inside her stayed calm. Because somehow, deep inside, she knew. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Chapter 2, a name she had forgotten. Ava didn't sleep that night. She kept thinking about the notebook. The photo. The words Daniel had said, "Someone is looking for you." She didn't know what to believe. Was this man dangerous? Was he lying? Or was he telling the truth, a truth too strange to understand? She stared at her phone. Should she call someone? The police? But what would she say? "A man in a cafe showed me a notebook with my photo in it?" That sounded crazy, even to her. But there was something in his eyes. Something she remembered. Not the face. Not the voice. But the feeling. Like she had known him once. A long time ago. The next morning, she didn't go to the cafe. She walked around the city instead, trying to think. Trying to remember. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "You don't have to be afraid. Meet me where the stars fell. You'll understand." She stared at the screen. Where the stars fell? What did that mean? Then it hit her. The old observatory. It was a place she hadn't been in over 10 years. A small hill on the edge of the city, where her father used to take her when she was a child. They would watch the stars together. One night, they saw a meteor shower. Her father called it the night the stars fell. Nobody else knew that name. Only her. Only family. Or someone who had once been close enough to feel like family. She took a taxi. The city faded behind her as the road curved up the hill. Trees whispered in the wind. The sky was gray. Heavy. Like something was coming. The observatory was old, locked, and falling apart. But the view was still beautiful. And he was already there. Daniel. He stood near the fence, his hands in his pockets. When he saw her, he didn't smile. He just looked sad. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he said. "I almost didn't," she replied. "I don't know if I'm safe with you." "I understand," he said. "I wouldn't trust me either." Ava looked at him closely. Then help me understand. Tell me who you are. Tell me what this is. He didn't speak for a moment. Then he said quietly, "You don't remember me, do you?" "No," she whispered. "Should I?" He nodded. "Your name wasn't always Ava. You had another name. Long ago. Before the accident." Ava stepped back. "What accident?" He pulled something out of his coat pocket, a small locket. Gold. Worn. He opened it. Inside was a picture of two children. A boy and a girl. Maybe 5 years old. They were smiling. Holding hands. "That's you," he said. "And that's me." Ava stared at the photo. The girl had her eyes. Her smile. But she couldn't remember. I don't understand. You were adopted when you were 7. After the fire. Your memory was damaged. The doctors said it was better not to force it. You started a new life. A safe one. He paused. But I never stopped looking for you. I promised your mother I'd find you. Ava felt dizzy. The world spun around her. My mother? She's still alive, he said. But she's in hiding. Because the people who started that fire, they were looking for something. Something your family had. And now, they think you have it. What do I have? She asked, her voice shaking. A code, he said. Hidden in a painting. A painting your father made before he died. It holds the key to something powerful. And dangerous. Ava sat down on the grass. Everything felt unreal. Like a story. But the locket in her hand was real. And the sadness in Daniel's eyes was real too. Why didn't anyone tell me? She whispered. Because they wanted to protect you. We all did. But now it's too late to stay hidden. Daniel sat beside her. Quiet. Watching the wind move through the trees. After a while, Ava asked, "And you? What are you to me?" He looked at her gently. I was your best friend. Your protector. Maybe more, if time had been kind. She turned to face him. And now? Now, he hesitated. Now I'll keep my promise. I'll keep you safe. Even if you never remember who I was. Even if you never love me. Ava didn't speak. She didn't know what to feel. But deep inside, something was waking up. A flicker. A spark. A piece of the past, returning like a light in the dark. And though the storm clouds above them gathered heavy and gray, she felt no fear. Because sometimes, love isn't something you choose. Sometimes, it's something that finds you again. Even after all the years. Even after all the lies. Even after the secret he keeps. Chapter 3: The Code and the Painting. That night, Ava couldn't stop looking at the photo in the locket. The little girl's face smiled up at her, so familiar, yet distant. A memory that almost belonged to someone else. Her hands shook as she turned the locket over. On the back was a tiny symbol, barely visible, a small, painted star with 3 dots underneath. She had seen that before. Somewhere. But where? She stood in front of the bookshelf in her apartment, her heart racing. One of the paintings on the wall caught her eye. It was the only thing from her childhood she still owned. A small, strange painting, abstract, made of lines and shapes. It didn't seem like much, but she had always kept it. Her adoptive parents told her it was found in her old home, after the fire. She took the painting down and flipped it over. Her breath caught. There it was. The same star symbol with 3 dots, drawn on the back of the wooden frame. She ran her fingers over the surface. Something clicked. A small flap of canvas near the edge was loose. With trembling fingers, she peeled it back. A piece of paper was hidden behind the canvas, folded tightly. She opened it slowly. Inside was a sketch, drawn in pencil, faded and old. It looked like a map. Not of a city, but of a house. And beneath the sketch, a strange sequence of letters and numbers. Eva 174x21, Lions ing. She didn't understand it. But it meant something. She was sure of it. A sudden knock on her door made her jump. Her heart raced. She opened the door just a crack. Daniel stood there, out of breath. "We need to go," he said. "Now." She opened the door wider. "Why? What's happening?" "They found your address. I think they followed me this morning." "I'm sorry. I tried to be careful." Ava grabbed the paper, stuffed it in her coat pocket, and followed him down the stairs. They moved fast, staying in shadows, avoiding the main streets. Daniel didn't speak. His eyes scanned everything. They ended up in a small parking garage where a black motorcycle waited. "You ride?" he asked. "No," she said. "Hold on tight, then." He gave her a helmet. Moments later, they were speeding through the city, the wind loud in her ears, her arms tight around his waist. She didn't ask where they were going. She didn't care. All she knew was that someone was after her, and Daniel was the only one who seemed to know why. They drove out of the city, down country roads, into silence. Finally, they reached an old farmhouse. Abandoned. Overgrown. But still standing. "This used to be safe," he said. "They don't know about it yet." Inside, it was dusty but solid. A table. 2 chairs. A fireplace that hadn't been used in years. They sat in silence. Finally, Ava took the paper from her coat and laid it on the table. "I found this in the painting." Daniel leaned in. His eyes darkened as he read the code. "This is it," he said. "It's the last piece." "What does it mean?" Daniel took a deep breath. "It's a message. From your father." The code leads to something called the Lion's Eye. A drive. A secret file. It contains data about illegal government tests, things they did in secret, things that could destroy reputations, careers, lives. Your father used to work for them. He discovered the truth and tried to expose it. That's why they came after him. And my mother? Ava asked. She escaped with you. But you were injured in the fire. You were unconscious. And when you woke up, you had no memory. We thought it was better that way. We thought if we hid you, you'd be safe. He paused. But now, someone has found the trail again. They believe you have the key. That you know where the lion's eye is hidden. But I don't, Ava said. I don't remember anything. You don't have to, Daniel replied. Because I do. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded map. It matched the one in the painting. He placed them side by side. There's a house, he said. In a village called Norcross Glen. That's what the code means, Denji. Ava traced the lines with her finger. The house was surrounded by trees. A hidden place. A place no one had visited in years. So we go there, she asked. He nodded. But we won't be alone for long. Once they realize we're moving, they'll come. Ava looked at him. Why are you doing this for me? Daniel didn't answer right away. Then he said softly, because when we were kids, you saved me once. You didn't even know it. You were brave. You made me believe in something good. I owe you everything. Ava felt something shift inside her. A wall breaking down. A truth beginning to bloom. She still didn't remember her past. But she knew, without a doubt, she could trust Daniel. And deep inside, she felt the pull of something stronger than fear. Not just survival. But love. A love that had been waiting for years to return. And now, as the wind howled outside the farmhouse, and shadows grew long across the floor, she knew. The secret he kept was no longer just his. It was hers too. And together, they were going to finish the story her father had started. Chapter 4: The Road to Norcross Glen. Ava woke up in the old farmhouse with sunlight pouring through a cracked window. For a moment, it felt like a dream, Daniel asleep in a chair nearby, his jacket folded under his head. The coded map still lay on the table, its corners curled with age. She moved slowly, trying not to wake him. But he stirred anyway. You're up, he said with a tired smile. We have to go, she replied. Before they find us. He nodded. They packed quickly, only the essentials. The map. The locket. A small bag of clothes. Daniel stuffed a flashlight and a pocket knife into his coat. His movements were practiced, quiet, focused. Outside, the motorcycle stood ready. But this time, they took an old Jeep Daniel had hidden behind the barn. Faster on country roads, he explained. They drove in silence at first, trees blurring past, birds scattering as the wheels hit the gravel. Ava stared out the window, her mind spinning. What was my father really like? She asked after a while. Daniel glanced at her. He was brilliant. But kind. He didn't care about power or money. He wanted the truth. And he wanted you safe. Everything he did for you. A lump rose in her throat. And my mother? She was strong. Fierce. She could read a room in seconds. She knew how to disappear. But when she looked at you, everything softened. You were her light. They drove on, the road winding through forests and empty fields. Hours passed. Ava found herself clutching the map tighter every time they turned. Finally, a weathered sign appeared, Norcross Glen, 2 miles. The village was small, more like a cluster of cottages than a town. Time had forgotten it. Most windows were boarded up. The trees around it stood tall, thick with shadows. Daniel pulled over near an old stone wall. "This is it," he said. "The house is just beyond those woods." They got out. Ava followed him through the trees, stepping over roots, brushing past low branches. The map guided them now. Every step felt heavier. And then they saw it. A house, hidden in a grove of pine trees. Covered in vines. Wooden boards across the windows. The roof slanted, but intact. "This place," Ava whispered. "It feels like home?" Daniel asked gently. She nodded, though the memory still didn't come. Inside, the air was cold. Dust covered everything. But there was no sign of damage, no broken glass, no vandalism. Just silence. They searched every room. In the attic, Daniel found an old chest. He opened it slowly. Inside were papers. Photographs. Notes. A flash drive taped under the lid. "This is it," he said, holding it up. The lion's eye. But before he could say more, the sound of a car engine cut through the quiet. They froze. Outside, gravel crunched. Doors opened. They were not alone. Daniel grabbed her hand. "We have to hide." He pulled her into a small side room with a narrow door. Ava's heart pounded as heavy footsteps entered the house. Voices echoed, calm, controlled, searching. "Don't break anything. It's here." "I know it," a man said. She looked at Daniel. He mouthed one word, "Run." But Ava shook her head. She pulled the flash drive from his pocket and hid it in her boot. Suddenly, a loud crash came from downstairs. They had found the attic. Now. Daniel kicked open the back door and pulled her into the trees. Gunshots rang out behind them. Splinters flew from the doorframe. They ran. Branches scratched at her skin. Her lungs burned. But she didn't stop. She wouldn't stop. Not now. They reached a small creek and ducked behind a fallen log. Water rushed by as footsteps approached. She could hear them, the 3, maybe 4 men. Daniel's face was pale. His arm was bleeding. "You're hurt," she whispered. "I'm fine. Just a graze." He looked at her with those dark eyes. "You okay?" She nodded. Then she leaned forward and kissed him. It wasn't planned. It wasn't soft. It was full of fear and fire and something deeper, something that had waited years to rise. When they broke apart, she whispered, "We finish what my father started. Together." He smiled through the pain. I was hoping you'd say that. The footsteps faded. They stayed hidden a while longer. Then, when it was safe, they followed the creek down into a narrow valley. They had escaped. For now. But they both knew it wasn't over. The lion's eye was in their hands. The truth was ready to be told. And someone, somewhere, was willing to kill to stop them. But Ava wasn't running anymore. This was her story now. And she was ready to write the ending. Chapter 5: Secrets in the Signals. The city buzzed with its usual chaos, car horns, flashing lights, voices rising from every corner. For most people, it was just another Tuesday. For Ava and Daniel, it was a battlefield where the enemy wore no uniform. They had driven all night, keeping off the main roads. The Jeep now sat in a parking garage beneath an old tech building on the city's east side. Daniel's contact, a man named Felix, worked here, an expert in digital recovery, and more importantly, someone Daniel trusted with his life. At least, he used to. Are you sure about him? Ava asked as they rode the elevator up. Daniel hesitated. We worked together years ago. He saved my life once. But this is different. The doors opened on the 8th floor. The office was dimly lit, the hum of machines filling the space. Felix sat at a desk, wires and monitors surrounding him like a web. Dan, he said, not looking up. Still finding trouble, I see. Felix, Daniel replied. We need your help. Felix finally turned. He was older than Ava expected, with silver hair and sharp eyes. He looked at her for a long second before nodding. You have the drive? Daniel handed it over without a word. Felix plugged it into his system, screens lighting up instantly. Code poured down one monitor, lines Ava couldn't begin to understand. But Felix's face changed, first confusion, then awe. This isn't just a file, he whispered. It's a full archive. Names. Locations. Surveillance logs. Someone's been collecting intelligence on dozens of people, powerful ones. Politicians, judges, CEOs. Ava stepped closer. Are they connected? They all have ties to one project, Felix said. It's called Orpheus. Never heard of it before now. Daniel's eyes darkened. I have. Ava turned. What is it? Daniel swallowed. Orpheus was a classified operation. Started after your father disappeared. I thought it was shut down. But if this is real, then it was never meant to end. They worked for hours. Felix decrypted files, one by one. Some revealed conversations. Others, payments. One video file showed Ava's father, alive, speaking in code. He knew, Ava breathed. He knew they'd come for him. Felix looked worried. Once we access the full data, they'll know someone's broken in. Then let them know, Ava said. We're not hiding anymore. But Daniel wasn't so sure. Later that night, Ava stood by the window, watching the rain. Her reflection stared back at her, older somehow. Hardened. Why didn't you tell me sooner? She asked quietly. Daniel sat behind her, a bandage now on his arm. Because the more you knew, the more danger you were in. Your father made me promise. And what about the others? She said, turning. The people in that file. What happens to them? We expose it, he replied. All of it. She walked over, sat beside him. Do you think we'll survive this? She asked. I don't know, he said honestly. But I know we have to try. Just then, the screen flashed red. Felix jumped to his feet. We've been traced, he said. They're inside the building system. They're coming. Alarms sounded. Backup drive. Daniel yelled. Felix handed him a second flash drive, smaller, encrypted. Take it. It's all here. Gunfire exploded in the hallway. Ava grabbed Daniel's hand. Let's go. They ran for the stairwell. Behind them, the door burst open. Shadows moved through the smoke. Floor by floor, they descended. The city outside seemed unreachable, like another world. But finally, they reached the garage. The Jeep roared to life. They sped out, tires screeching, bullets hitting metal. Felix didn't make it. Ava didn't cry. She couldn't. Not yet. They drove to an old motel on the city's edge. Daniel collapsed on the bed, silent. Ava stood in the bathroom, staring at her reflection again. This time, she saw a fighter. She clutched the new flash drive. It was cold, small, and heavy with truths. She would finish what her father started. Expose the Orpheus Project. Bring them all down. Even if it cost her everything. Chapter 6: The Man Who Never Died. The motel room was silent except for the soft hum of an old ceiling fan spinning slowly overhead. Outside, the world moved on. Cars passed, strangers spoke, and rain tapped gently on the windows, but inside, Ava felt like time had frozen. She hadn't slept. She couldn't. The flash drive was still in her hand, clutched like a lifeline. Felix was gone, and there was no guarantee that whatever was on it would even make a difference. But something inside her refused to quit. A voice. A memory. A promise. Daniel stirred, sitting up with a wince. The wound on his arm still throbbed, but his focus was clear. We can't stay here long, he said, standing. They'll sweep this area by morning. Ava nodded, eyes still fixed on the drive. There's someone else, isn't there? Someone who can help us. Daniel hesitated, then walked to a drawer and pulled out a thin, folded map. He laid it on the table. There's one more person, he said. He was your father's closest friend. They called him the architect. Real name? I don't know. No one ever did. She looked at him. You think he's still alive? I'm not sure. But if anyone knows what Orpheus really is, it's him. They left the motel an hour later, heading north into the mountains. The road was steep, winding, and nearly forgotten. As they drove, Ava remembered a cabin from her childhood, hidden deep in the woods, where her father once took her fishing. She'd always thought it was just a vacation spot. Now she wasn't so sure. It was nearly nightfall when they arrived. The trees parted to reveal a weathered wooden cabin, moss on the roof, smoke drifting from a crooked chimney. A light glowed inside. Daniel stopped the jeep. "He's here." They stepped out slowly. Ava felt her heart pounding as she approached the door. Before she could knock, it opened. A man stood there. Tall, thin, with eyes like frozen glass and a scar across his cheek. He stared at Ava for a long moment before speaking. "You have your father's eyes," he said. "Who are you?" she asked. He stepped aside. "Someone who's waited a long time for this moment." Inside, the cabin smelled of firewood and old paper. Maps covered the walls, red lines crisscrossing continents. Books filled every shelf. And in the corner, a wall of screens, security feeds, data projections, surveillance archives. Ava turned. "You knew my father." "I did more than that," he said. "I built the system that helped him hide from them." Daniel stepped forward. "We have the data. Everything. But we don't know what it means." The man took the drive from Ava's hand and plugged it into his setup. In seconds, screens flickered to life. "You were right to come," he said. "But this is more than just blackmail material. It's a blueprint." Orpheus wasn't just about control. It was about replacement. Ava blinked. "What do you mean?" He tapped one of the screens. A series of files opened: photographs, digital scans, DNA reports. "They weren't just spying on the elite," he explained. "They were creating doubles. Biometric clones, psychological shadows. They could replace anyone. And no one would know." "Why?" Ava whispered. "Power," the architect replied. "If you control the people who lead nations, own companies, command armies, you control the world." Daniel stared at the images. "How many have they replaced?" The man turned slowly. "We don't know. But it's more than we feared." Ava sat down, overwhelmed. "And my father?" she asked. "Why did he disappear?" The architect walked to a safe, unlocked it, and pulled out an old photograph. It showed her father, with the architect, and someone else. Ava's breath caught. It was her. But the photo was dated 4 years before she was born. "That's not possible," she whispered. The architect sat beside her. "It's not you. It's her. The first version." Ava looked at him, eyes wide. "What are you saying?" He met her gaze. "Your father tried to stop Orpheus when he learned the truth. They created her as a prototype, using your mother's DNA. When he refused to cooperate, he went into hiding. And when you were born, they thought you were the second version." Daniel's voice was quiet. "So she was hunted because they believed she was the clone." Ava stood, stunned. Her father's disappearance, the silence, it all made sense now. "But I'm not," she said. "I'm real." "Yes," the architect said. "But to them, you're still a threat." She looked at the screen again. So many lives. So many lies. And now, she knew what had to be done. We bring the truth to the world, she said. We show them what Orpheus is. The architect nodded. It won't be easy. Nothing worth doing ever is, she replied. As the fire crackled behind them and snow began to fall outside the cabin, Ava made a silent vow. No more hiding in secrets. It was time to fight back. Chapter 7: The Broadcast. The night air was sharp and cold, slicing through Ava's coat as they stepped outside the cabin. Every tree seemed to lean in, listening, waiting. Somewhere in the dark, a fox barked. A chill ran down her spine, not just from the cold, but from what they now knew. They had only one mission: expose the truth before it was erased forever. Inside, the architect worked quickly. His fingers danced across the keyboard as he filtered the encrypted files on the flash drive, searching for the most damning evidence. Names. Locations. Video proof. This isn't just a leak, he explained. This has to hit the public all at once: news outlets, independent journalists, whistleblower channels. Everywhere. It's the only way to protect it from being buried. Ava nodded. We can't just speak. We have to show. They planned the broadcast for midnight. A synchronized release across multiple platforms. But for that, they needed a signal strong enough to override censorship firewalls. The architect knew of one place that could give them the power they needed: an abandoned satellite station deep in the mountains. The three of them packed up quickly. A generator, cables, hard drives, backup gear. Daniel double-checked the Jeep while Ava slipped the flash drive into a pouch around her neck. You sure about this? He asked. I've never been more sure of anything, she replied. They drove in silence, the road twisting through thick pine forests and forgotten paths. Snow fell steadily now, erasing their tracks. By dawn, the satellite tower came into view, tall, rusted, and crowned with a dish that still turned lazily in the wind. This place was shut down 20 years ago, the architect said. But the signal reach is intact. If we can plug in before they find us. He didn't finish the sentence. They got to work. Daniel set up the generator. Ava organized the files, practicing the words she would speak: clear, powerful, undeniable. And then, just before they went live, something shifted. The architect's expression changed. Not fear. Not urgency. But cold indifference. Ava caught it too late. He stood slowly, reached into his coat, and pulled out a small device. A beacon. Daniel froze. What are you doing? The architect's voice was calm, too calm. I told them where we'd be. They'll be here in 10 minutes. Ava's throat tightened. Why? He turned to her with a look of quiet sadness. Because this war was lost before it began. You think truth will set people free? No. It will only make them afraid. They'll turn on you. They'll demand you be silenced. Orpheus doesn't need to destroy you. The world will do it for them. You lied to us, Ava said. No. I prepared you, he replied. Now run. Daniel stepped forward, but the architect raised his hand. I didn't bring weapons. Just a signal. I had to make sure you were truly ready. Ava's heart pounded. Sirens echoed in the distance, vehicles approaching. You still have time, the architect said. Use it. Without another word, Ava turned and ran, Daniel close behind. They didn't have the satellite. They didn't have the broadcast. But they still had the truth. They raced back to the jeep, skidding through snow and mud as headlights appeared at the tree line. Voices shouted. Gunshots cracked through the air. Daniel jerked the wheel hard, the jeep fishtailing as they tore down the mountain road. Behind them, fire lit up the sky. The tower burned. Ava stared back, gripping the flash drive. The betrayal burned, but so did the resolve. We need a new plan, she whispered. We will find one, Daniel replied. They didn't stop until dawn. Parked beside a frozen lake, their breath fogging the windows, Ava turned to him. Do you trust me? She asked. I always have. She held up the drive. Then let's finish what we started. No more waiting. No more hiding. It's time the world sees who I really am and what they've done to all of us. In that quiet place, surrounded by stillness and snow, a fire was born, not just of anger, but of purpose. The secret he kept had become the truth she would reveal. And this time, no one, not even betrayal, would stop her. Chapter 8: The Underground. The morning after the tower burned, silence filled the forest. Not the peaceful kind, but the silence of breath held too long, of questions still unanswered. Ava stared into the frozen lake, its surface a mirror of everything she felt, cold, cracked, hidden beneath. The flash drive hung from her neck like a heartbeat. It was all they had now. Daniel crouched beside the jeep, tuning into shortwave frequencies. Static crackled. Nothing clear. The architect had vanished. The tower was gone. The world still spun, unaware of what nearly reached them. We're not giving up, Daniel said, turning to her. We're going underground. Ava blinked. Where? He pulled a crumpled slip of paper from his pocket. A contact. Someone I trusted before all this. She leads a group that's been working in the shadows. People like us have burned, betrayed, but not broken. They drove west for 2 days, avoiding main roads. Sleeping in the jeep. Eating from gas stations. The farther they got from the city, the more the sky opened up, starlight that made Ava feel both small and infinite. On the 3rd night, they reached the edge of the desert. Nothing but rock and sky. A skeleton of a town. 1 gas station. 1 diner. 1 long abandoned train track. This is the place? Ava asked. Daniel nodded toward the train yard. It's beneath it. They walked between rusting boxcars and faded graffiti until they reached a metal hatch buried in sand. Daniel knocked 6 times, paused, then twice more. The lock clicked. The hatch opened. Inside, a steel staircase descended into darkness. At the bottom, lights. People. It wasn't what Ava expected. Not rebels in camouflage or hackers behind glowing screens. It was a community. A woman in her 60s with a scarred eyebrow offered them water. A teenager wearing headphones sketched symbols onto a paper map. A blind man typed on a braille display, reading surveillance logs. The leader was named Rhea. Tall. Quiet. Eyes that missed nothing. "So you're the girl with the drive," she said after Ava explained everything. "And the man who kept the secret." Daniel didn't speak. His jaw tightened. Rhea looked at them both. "We've waited for someone like you. Not because of what you know, but because of what you're willing to risk." They showed her the data. The experiments. The names. The proof. Rhea didn't flinch. "We've seen similar," she said. "But this has blood on it." Over the next days, Ava and Daniel became part of the Rhythm Underground. They slept in bunks, mapped safe zones, and recorded voice messages for allies still in the cities. Rhea trained Ava in digital broadcasting. Taught her how to protect the drive. How to speak in codes. How to vanish without leaving footprints. But with each lesson came a warning. Trust no one without scars. If they've never been burned, they've never stood too close to the fire. Ava took those words to heart. Then one morning, the maps changed. Red circles appeared across multiple cities. Disappearances. Vanishings. Whistleblowers gone without a trace. Orpheus wasn't waiting anymore. It was hunting. And soon it would come for the underground. "We move in 2 days," Rhea announced. "We split the drive. 1 piece each. If one falls, the rest carry it forward." Ava looked at Daniel. "You ready?" His answer came without hesitation. "Only if we burn the whole lie to the ground." That night, Ava stood in front of a makeshift camera, surrounded by cables and monitors. Her hands trembled as she lifted the microphone. "Not yet," Rhea whispered. "Wait for the signal." Ava nodded. The room fell quiet. They were ghosts in a world of machines, but soon, if they got it right, their words would echo across every corner of the planet. And when that day came, the secret he kept would no longer be a secret. It would be a revolution. Chapter 9: The Final Transmission. The countdown had begun. The underground safe house, once humming with quiet preparation, now moved like a machine fueled by urgency and adrenaline. Maps were rolled. Drives encoded. Coordinates whispered only once before being burned. Everyone knew the plan and what failure meant. Ava sat alone in the recording booth, staring at her reflection in the dusty glass. The microphone in front of her blinked red. Live. Ready. But not yet. The signal had to be perfect. Rhea had insisted, "This is the moment the world hears the truth. You only get one chance." The team would split into 3, one unit to create distractions in the cities, one to maintain the satellite feed, and the last, a small group, including Ava and Daniel, to broadcast the transmission from a moving van, signal jumping through mountain ranges. Rhea came to her quietly. When you speak, don't try to convince them. Just show them what was hidden and let the silence between the lies do the rest. Ava nodded. She didn't need to be told what was at stake. She'd lived it. They rolled out at dusk. The van was gutted and rebuilt with fiber cables, antennas, and enough power to bounce a signal halfway around the world. Daniel drove. His knuckles were pale on the wheel. In the back, Ava adjusted the transmitter. The screen flickered once, then locked on green. Online in 2 minutes, she said. They were in the canyons now, twisting roads, red cliffs rising like giants. From here, the sky felt close, almost protective. But danger wasn't far behind. At exactly 11:59 p.m., the signal unlocked. Ava's face appeared on screens across the globe, some by design, others hijacked by Rhea's network. Cafes. Apartments. Subway stations. Even Times Square. And then, her voice. If you are hearing this, you were never meant to. What I'm about to share has been hidden, buried, denied. But now, it's yours. She paused, then played the first clip, a grainy video of the Orpheus Labs. Faces of scientists, some now high-level officials. Test subjects in agony. Children, branded with ID codes. The room trembled with silence. She spoke again. My name is Ava Reyes. My father worked for them. My brother died because of them. And now, they want to erase me. The images kept coming. Documents. Names. A list of 27 journalists who had vanished. Satellite footage of secret compounds. Daniel watched the screen as tears fell silently from Ava's eyes. But they forgot one thing. The truth doesn't need permission. It only needs a voice. The world held its breath. And then, just as the final file loaded, the signal faltered. Static. What's happening? Ava shouted. Daniel stared at the console. We're being jammed. They found us. Outside, floodlights cut through the canyon. Trucks. Drones. Armed agents. The van shook as bullets tore into the side panel. Ava ducked, clutching the hard drive. We can't shut it down now, she yelled. Daniel made a decision. He hit the manual override. Get out. I'll keep it running. What? She screamed. There's a relay post up that ridge. If you get there with the drive, you can still beam it to the backup server. I'm not leaving you. He grabbed her hand. You have to. If they get this drive, it's over. She looked at him, her eyes wild with terror and love. Then she ran. Through dirt and wind and gunfire, she climbed, the drive bouncing against her chest. Her legs burned. Her lungs tore with each breath. Below, the van exploded. A fireball lit the canyon. She screamed, but didn't stop. At the top, the post stood, half collapsed, barely functioning. She plugged in the drive. The signal blinked once, twice. then connected. The backup server came online. The broadcast resumed. And the world saw everything. 10 minutes of truth. 10 minutes of horror. 10 minutes of freedom. By sunrise, Ava was gone, vanished into the storm of headlines and chaos. But her voice remained. Her face replayed on every screen. The secret he kept became the story she carried. And now, the world would never be the same. Chapter 10: After the Storm. The world woke up to chaos. Screens flashed with Ava's face. News stations scrambled to verify the footage. Social media exploded with disbelief and outrage. Governments issued denials and warnings, but the damage was done. Ava watched from the shadows of a cramped motel room in a city thousands of miles away. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She was no longer just a girl with a secret. She was a symbol, a beacon in a dark world. Her phone buzzed. It was Daniel. "We made it," his voice was tired but alive. "The underground is moving fast. Rhea says we've sparked something." Ava smiled softly. "It's only the beginning." But the beginning was terrifying. Leaders fell. Investigations opened. Secret prisons emptied. Whistleblowers protected. The world's foundations trembled. Yet, with every victory came new threats. Dark figures watched. New alliances formed. The power that once hid in shadows was now hunting in daylight. Ava knew her life was over, at least the life she once knew. She would never walk the streets without looking over her shoulder. She would never trust easily. But she had a choice: run forever, or stand and fight. Daniel arrived at her door one evening. Exhausted, battle-worn, but determined. "We can rebuild," he said. "Not just expose lies, but create something real." She looked at him, the man who kept his secret for so long, now standing with nothing left to hide. Together, they planned. A network of truth-tellers. Safe houses. Education centers. A movement built on courage and honesty. Because the secret he kept was never about hiding. It was about protecting. And now, that protection was over. Ava took a deep breath and stepped outside. The sun rose over a world changed forever. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning. If you enjoyed this story and want to discover more thrilling tales while improving your English, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Share your thoughts in the comments. What would you do if you were in Ava's shoes? Stay curious, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next story.